Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Before we begin, please like and subscribe to my channel and let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. I never believed in anything supernatural. Not until that winter in Alaska changed everything. My name's Trevor, and back in 2019 I took a job as a wildlife researcher up in the Denali region. The pay was incredible, and honestly I needed to get away from everything down in Seattle. A bad breakup, debt piling up, you know how it goes. 6 months in the Alaskan wilderness studying wolf patterns seemed like the perfect escape. They set me up in this old cabin about 40 miles from the nearest town. And when I say town, I mean like 200 people. One general store and a bar that doubled as the post office. The cabin itself was decent. 2 rooms, a wood stove, solar panels for minimal electricity. My supervisor, this grizzled guy named Hammond, drove me out there in his pickup. "You got satellite phone, right?" he asked as we unloaded my supplies. "Yeah, got it." "Good, you're gonna need it. Cell service is non-existent out here." He paused, looking at the tree line. "And Trevor, don't go wandering around after dark." "I mean it," I laughed. "What, worried about bears?" "Among other things." He didn't smile. "Just stay inside once the sun goes down." That should have been my first warning. The first week was amazing, honestly. The isolation was exactly what I needed. I'd wake up, check my equipment, track wolf movements, take samples. The silence was incredible. Not like city silence where you can still hear cars in the distance. This was pure, absolute quiet. The kind that makes you aware of your own heartbeat. But here's the thing about that kind of silence. It makes everything else sound louder. It started on day 9. I was inside the cabin, updating my research notes on my laptop. It was around 8 p.m., pitch black outside. This was January, so we're talking about maybe 4 hours of weak daylight total. I heard it for the first time. Footsteps, not animal footsteps. Human footsteps. Boots crunching in the snow, slow and deliberate, circling the cabin. I froze, listening. Crunch, crunch, crunch. They went all the way around the cabin, and then stopped. Right at my door. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. I grabbed my flashlight and yanked open the door. Nothing. Just my own footprints from earlier that day and the undisturbed snow beyond. No other tracks? None. I told myself it was the cold messing with the cabin's wood, making it creak. Sounds travel weird in extreme cold, right? That's what I told myself. But it happened again the next night. And the night after that. Always the same pattern. Footsteps circling the cabin. Always stopping at the door. And when I'd check, there would never be any tracks except mine. By week 3, I wasn't sleeping well. The footsteps came every single night now, always around 8 p.m. I started timing them exactly 8:04 p.m. every night. You could set your watch by it. I called Hammond on the satellite phone. "You're hearing things," he said. "Isolation does that. Your mind plays tricks." "Hammond, I'm not imagining this. Listen to me. You stay inside at night like I told you. You'll be fine. Do not go looking for answers. Understand?" He hung up before I could respond. That's when I knew he knew something. I started researching the cabin's history. Took me a while with the crappy satellite internet, but I found it. 5 years ago, a researcher named Garrett stayed in this exact cabin. He disappeared. They found the cabin locked from the inside, his supplies untouched, but Garrett, gone, no trace. No body, nothing. And 10 years before that, another researcher, same thing, vanished. I should have left right then. But it was the middle of winter. I had no vehicle. And the next supply run wasn't for 2 weeks. The footsteps continued every night. But on day 26, something changed. I heard my name. "Trevor," whispered. Right outside my door, my blood went ice cold. "Trevor, open the door." The voice was calm, conversational. Like a friend asking to come in from the cold. I didn't move. I could barely breathe. "Trevor, I know you're in there. I've been so cold, please let me in." Here's what made it so much worse. The voice sounded like me. Not exactly like me, but close enough that it was uncanny. Like someone doing an impression of my voice. "Go away," I managed to say. Silence. Then, "I can't go away, Trevor. This is where I stay, where I wait." "For what?" "For someone to let me in." I backed away from the door, grabbed my satellite phone with shaking hands and called Hammond. "It's talking to me," I said when he picked up. "Whatever's out there, it knows my name. It sounds like me." "Do not open that door," Hammond cut me off. His voice was urgent, scared even. "Listen to me very carefully. It will say anything. It will sound like anyone. Your mother, your brother, a friend, it doesn't matter. You do not open that door. Not until sunrise. What is it? Something old. Something that's been in those woods longer than anyone knows. It takes researchers from that cabin, Trevor. But only the ones who let it in. Do you understand? It cannot enter unless you invite it. The thing outside laughed. My own laugh, but wrong. Hollow. Hammond sounds scared, doesn't he, Trevor? What aren't they telling you? Maybe I can help. Just open the door. Just a crack. I spent that entire night sitting against the far wall, flashlight in one hand, my hunting knife in the other, watching that door. The thing outside kept talking. Sometimes it was my voice. Sometimes it was my ex-girlfriend's voice. Once it was my dead father's voice, and that almost broke me, but I didn't open the door. When the first light of dawn came through the window, the voice stopped. Just like that. Complete silence. I called for an emergency extraction that morning. Told them I had a family emergency. Hammond didn't argue. He came himself to pick me up, and I swear I've never been so happy to see another human being. As we drove away, I asked him, "Why do they keep sending people to that cabin?" He was quiet for a long time. Finally, because we need the research. And most people never hear anything. You were unlucky. What about the ones who disappeared? He didn't answer that. I quit that job the day I got back to town. Moved back to Seattle. Got a boring office job. And I've never been happier to be surrounded by noise and people and city lights. But here's the thing that still keeps me up some nights. About a month after I left, Hammond called me. Said they'd sent another researcher to the cabin. Young guy named Caleb. Eager, needed the money. They found the cabin empty 3 weeks later. Door locked from the inside. Supplies untouched. Caleb's coat still hanging by the door. But Caleb? Gone. Like he'd never existed. And when they checked his final research log dated the night he disappeared, there was only one entry. 10:04 p.m. Someone's at the door. They say they know me. They sound so cold. I should let them in. I think about that a lot. I think about what Hammond said, that it can't enter unless invited. And I wonder if that thing takes you, where do you go? Are you still out there in those woods, walking in circles around that cabin, waiting in the dark? I don't know. And honestly, I don't want to know. But sometimes when I'm alone in my apartment and it's quiet, I swear I hear it. Faint, like it's very far away. Footsteps circling. And a voice that sounds almost like mine whispering, "Trevor, I'm still so cold." And I make sure every door is locked. You know what nobody tells you about Alaska? It's not the cold that gets you. It's the darkness. I'm Brooke and I moved to Barrow. Well, they call it Utqiagvik now, back in November 2018. Got a job as a school teacher up there. The pay was double what I made in Colorado, and I thought, how bad could it be? It's just weather, right? Wrong, see, Barrow is the northernmost town in America. And from mid-November to mid-January, the sun doesn't rise. At all, 67 days of continuous darkness. They call it the polar night. I thought I was prepared. I'd read about it. Talked to people online, bought all the vitamin D supplements. But you can't really prepare for what it does to your head. That absolute absence of sunlight, it changes something in you. The first week was weird but manageable. The town has streetlights, the school's bright, people are friendly. Everyone warned me, keep busy, stay social, don't isolate yourself. Standard advice, I followed it. For a while, but around week 3 I started noticing something. My sleep schedule was destroyed. I'd sleep at random times, wake up disoriented. Was it morning, evening? You couldn't tell. The darkness was constant, absolute. Time stopped meaning anything. And then I started seeing things, nothing major at first, just shadows moving at the edge of my vision. I'd be grading papers, and I'd swear someone walked past my window. But when I'd look, nothing, just the darkness pressing against the glass. It's the darkness, my colleague Dana told me when I mentioned it. Happens to everyone their first winter. Your brain isn't getting enough light input, so it starts filling in the gaps, making up visual information. That made sense, scientific, rational. But Dana didn't know about the knocking. It started on day 22 of the darkness. I was in my small apartment, watching Netflix, trying to pretend I wasn't in the most isolated place on earth. Around midnight, or what my clock said was midnight, I heard it. Knock, knock, knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on my front door. I looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. "Hello?" I called out. Nothing. I opened the door. The hallway was freezing. Someone must have left the building door open, but there was nobody there. I checked the stairwell, walked down to the lobby. Empty. When I got back to my apartment, there were wet footprints leading from my door to my living room window. Small puddles of melted snow. But here's the thing, the footprints came in, but they didn't go back out. I stood there, staring at those footprints, my heart hammering. I checked every room, every closet, behind the shower curtain. Nothing. I was alone. The footprints dried up while I watched, and I convinced myself I'd somehow made them myself and forgotten. The darkness was messing with my memory. That's all. The knocking came again the next night, same time. 3 knocks. This time I didn't open the door. "Who is it?" I shouted. A voice answered. Quiet, almost a whisper. "Let me in. I'm so cold." I looked through the peephole again. Still nobody there. "There's no one out there," I said out loud, trying to convince myself. "Please," the voice said. "I've been walking for so long. I just need to warm up." I called Dana. She came over with her husband Marcus, this big guy who'd lived in Barrow his whole life. They checked the hallway, the stairwell, everything. "There's nobody here," Marcus said. "But listen, Brooke, don't open your door for anyone after dark. Not unless you can actually see them through the peephole." "Why? What's going on?" Dana and Marcus exchanged a look. "It's the long dark," Dana finally said. People go missing during polar night. Not every year, but enough. They leave their homes and just walk out into the darkness. Sometimes they're found frozen a few miles out. Sometimes they're never found at all. What does that have to do with, and sometimes, Marcus interrupted, people hear things, voices, knocking, things that sound like people but aren't. That's insane, maybe, Marcus said. But you don't open that door. Promise me, I promised. But the knocking continued. Every night, always 3 knocks. Always the same voice asking to be let in. And here's what really started getting to me. The voice began to sound familiar. Like someone I knew but couldn't quite place. It was driving me crazy, trying to figure out who it sounded like. On night 31 of the darkness, I figured it out. It sounded like me, not exactly. It was like hearing a recording of your own voice where it sounds similar but wrong. But it was definitely my voice asking to be let in. "Brooke, please," my own voice said through the door. "I'm so cold. Why won't you let me in?" I put on every light in my apartment and called Dana again. She didn't pick up. Neither did Marcus. It was 2 a.m. "I know you're scared," my voice said. "I'm scared too. That's why I need to come inside." "You're not real," I said, silence. Then, "Are you sure?" I spent that night sitting in my bathtub. No windows, solid door. I pulled the shower curtain closed and just sat there in the light, waiting for dawn that wouldn't come for another 36 days. The next morning, or what the clock said was morning, I went to Dana's classroom. She looked tired, dark circles under her eyes. "Did you hear it last night?" I asked. "Hear what?" "The knocking." The voice. She stared at me for a long moment. "Brooke, I need to tell you something. Marcus made me promise not to, but 2 years ago, during the polar night, there was another teacher here, woman named Haley. She started hearing things, knocking, voices. What happened to her? One morning, they found her apartment door wide open. She was gone. They found her 3 days later, 10 miles out of town, frozen solid." Dana's voice dropped to a whisper. "But here's the thing. Her footprints in the snow, they only went one way, out of town. There were no other footprints. But the police said it looked like someone was walking beside her. They could see the compressed snow like someone was there, but no footprints." My blood went cold. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because it doesn't happen to everyone. Most people are fine. We thought you'd be fine." That night the knocking came earlier, 10 p.m., and it was louder. Bang, 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 "Brooke!" My own voice screaming now. "Brooke, please. There's something out here. Let me in." I ran to the peephole. Still nothing in the hallway. "Brooke." The doorknob rattled violently. "It's right behind me, please." I backed away from the door, grabbed my phone, and called 911. The police came within 5 minutes. When they arrived, the knocking stopped. "There's nobody in the hallway," the officer told me. His nameplate said Jensen. "Ma'am, are you feeling okay?" I heard it. Something was trying to get in. "Have you been taking your vitamin D? Getting enough sleep?" He thought I was crazy. Maybe I was. Officer Jensen left, but not before saying the same thing everyone else had. Don't open your door unless you can see who it is. On day 43 of the darkness, I made a decision. I was leaving. I didn't care about breaking my contract, losing my deposit, any of it. I booked a flight out for the next morning. That final night, the knocking came at 8 p.m., earlier than ever. But this time, when I looked through the peephole, I saw something. It was me. I was standing in the hallway, staring at the door. My own face, pale and expressionless. My own coat, the one I was currently wearing. "Let me in," the thing with my face said. "I'm ready to come home now." I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my couch with my packed bags, waiting for morning, listening to myself knocking and begging to be let in until the moment my taxi arrived at 6 a.m. The thing was still there when I left, still had my face. It smiled at me as I ran past it toward the stairwell. I made my flight. Got out of Alaska. I'm back in Colorado now, teaching at a normal school where the sun rises and sets like it's supposed to. But here's what I can't stop thinking about. Dana called me 2 weeks ago. We hadn't spoken since I left. "I need to tell you something," she said. "After you left, we had a new teacher start. Woman named Megan, teaching your old position. Okay? She's been asking about you. Says she keeps seeing someone who looks exactly like you in her apartment building. Standing in the hallway. Staring at her door, I hung up. I don't want to know more, because sometimes late at night, I hear it, faint, like it's very far away but getting closer. Knock, knock, knock. And a voice that sounds exactly like me. Brooke, let me in. I walked so far to find you. I've started sleeping with every light on. I don't think I left it behind in Alaska. I think it followed me home." I've been driving trucks for 15 years. Been all over the lower 48, hauled everything from furniture to livestock. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the Dalton Highway in winter. Name's Brandon. And what I'm about to tell you happened in February 2020, right before the world went to hell with COVID. I'd just signed on with a company hauling supplies to the oil fields up in Deadhorse. The money was insane, triple what I made on normal routes, but there was a reason for that. The Dalton Highway is 414 miles of pure ice, snow, and isolation. They call it the Haul Road. Most dangerous highway in America. No cell service for most of it. No gas stations, no towns. Just you, your truck, and the wilderness. You ever driven in real winter conditions? My dispatcher asked when I took the job. Sure, I've done plenty of snow. Not like this, he cut me off. This is different. You're gonna see whiteouts that last hours. Wind that'll push your rig sideways. Temperatures that'll freeze your diesel if you're not careful. I can handle it. He gave me this look like he was deciding whether to say something. Finally, just keep moving. Don't stop unless you absolutely have to. And if you see anything weird, ignore it. Weird like what? You'll know if you see it. That should have been a red flag. My first run went fine. Long, exhausting, but fine. The landscape was beautiful in a terrifying way. Endless white mountains in the distance, the northern lights dancing overhead at night. But the isolation was intense. I'd go 6-7 hours without seeing another vehicle. It was on my third run that things got strange. I was about 200 miles up, in the middle of nowhere. It was around 10 p.m., pitch black except for my headlights. The radio had been static for the last 100 miles. I was singing along to my own playlist, trying to stay alert when I saw her. A woman standing on the side of the road. I slammed on my brakes, or at least I tried. You don't just slam on brakes on ice. The truck skidded, jackknifed slightly, but I managed to get it stopped about 50 yards past her. My heart was hammering. What the hell was someone doing out here? It was negative 30 degrees outside. She'd freeze to death in minutes. I grabbed my flashlight and climbed down from the cab. The cold hit me like a physical force. "Hey," I shouted. "You okay?" She didn't move. Just stood there facing away from me. I walked closer. She was wearing a summer dress. No coat, no hat. Bare arms. In negative 30-degree weather, ma'am. "Are you hurt?" She turned around. "I'm not gonna lie to you," I almost screamed. Her face was blue, lips black, eyes completely white like they'd frozen over. But she was moving. She was alive. "Help me," she whispered. Her voice sounded like wind through a crack in the window. "Please, I'm lost. Every instinct told me to run." But she was a person, you know. Maybe she'd been in an accident. Maybe she had hypothermia and was hallucinating. Come on, I said. Let's get you in the truck. Get you warmed up. I reached out to help her and she grabbed my wrist. Her hand was so cold it burned. I jerked back and she smiled. Not a normal smile, too wide. Too many teeth, thank you, she said. I've been waiting so long for a ride. She started walking toward my truck. Wait, I said, but she was already climbing into the passenger side. I stood there in the freezing darkness, my wrist throbbing where she'd touched me. What the hell was happening? I should have just driven away right then. Left her there. But my truck was my livelihood and she was in it. I climbed back into the cab. She was sitting in the passenger seat, still wearing that summer dress, not shivering at all. Where are you headed? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. North, she said. Always north. I put the truck in gear and started driving. What else could I do? For the first few miles, she didn't say anything. Just stared out the windshield. I kept glancing at her. She wasn't breathing. I swear to God her chest wasn't moving at all. So, what's your name? I tried. She turned to look at me. Those white eyes. Does it matter? Just making conversation. I had a name once. A long time ago. She tilted her head. What year is it? 2020, she laughed. It sounded like ice cracking. 2020. I've been walking for 37 years. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. What? I had a truck too. Drove this road. 1983. Winter storm came, white out, couldn't see anything. Went off the road. She pointed out the window at the darkness. Out there, somewhere. They never found my body. You're saying you're a ghost, is that what you call it? She leaned closer. I call it waiting. Waiting for someone to stop. Someone kind like you. I tried to swallow, but my mouth was dry. What do you want? To finish my route. I was headed to Dead Horse when I crashed. So close. Only 50 miles away. Her hand touched my arm, that burning cold again. Will you take me? Please, 50 miles. I was headed to Dead Horse anyway. If I could just get there, maybe this would end. Maybe she'd disappear or whatever ghosts do. Sure, I said. I'm going there anyway, she smiled again. That terrible smile. We drove in silence. But the temperature in the cab kept dropping. My breath started fogging. I cranked the heat all the way up, but it didn't help. It was like the cold was coming from her. Then I noticed something in the rearview mirror. There were more of them, people walking on the road behind us. Dozens of them, men, women, all in various states of old-fashioned clothing, all with that same blue skin, those white eyes. And they were keeping pace with the truck. Don't look at them, the woman said. Who are they? Others like me. Drivers who didn't make it, travelers who got stranded, workers who froze walking between camps. She stared ahead. The Dalton takes people. It's hungry, always hungry. Why are they following us? Because you stopped. You broke the rule. She turned those dead eyes on me. Never stop. Never pick anyone up. That's what they tell you, isn't it? But nobody says why. My blood ran cold. What happens if I let you out? You can't, not until we reach Dead Horse. You invited me in. Shall we finish the journey together? The figures in the mirror were getting closer. I pressed the gas pedal down. 60 miles per hour, 70. Dangerous speed on ice, but I didn't care. They're hungry too, the woman whispered. They want what you have. Warmth, life, a working body. One of the figures appeared suddenly in front of the truck. I swerved, felt the trailer slide, corrected it barely. My heart was trying to break out of my chest. Don't crash, the woman said. If you crash, you'll join us. Join me. We'll walk this road forever, waiting for the next truck. How do I make them stop? You don't. You just drive. So I drove. For the longest hour of my life, I drove with those things in my mirrors, occasionally appearing in front of the truck, forcing me to swerve. The woman sat perfectly still, watching me. Finally, I saw lights ahead, Dead Horse, the oil facility. There, I said. We're here. The woman looked at the lights, and for the first time she looked sad. Yes, we're here. As I pulled into the facility grounds, she reached for the door handle. Wait, I said. I don't know why I said it. Maybe because, ghost or not, she'd been a person once. What's your name? Your real name. She paused. Natalie. My name was Natalie. I'm sorry about what happened to you. Natalie. She looked at me with those terrible white eyes, and for just a second, they looked human, brown, sad, alive. Don't drive this road anymore. Brandon, please, it'll take you too, eventually. It takes everyone. Then she opened the door and stepped out. The moment her feet touched the ground, she vanished. Just gone, like she'd never been there. I looked in my rearview mirror. The road behind me was empty. No figures, nothing. But on the passenger seat where she'd been sitting, there was frost in the exact shape of a person. And scratched into the ice on the window in shaky letters. A3, thank you. I completed my delivery. Turned around and drove straight back to Fairbanks. Quit that job the next day. My dispatcher asked why. Just not for me, I said. He nodded like he understood. How far did you make it? All the way to Deadhorse. He looked surprised. And nothing happened? I thought about lying, but I said I stopped for someone. His face went pale. But you're here. You made it. Yeah, you're the first one. Everyone else who stopped, he trailed off. They didn't come back. I think about that a lot. Why did I make it when others didn't? Was it because I was kind to her? Because I asked her name? Or was it just luck? I don't drive trucks anymore. Got a desk job in Anchorage. Boring, safe, warm, but sometimes late at night, I'll be driving home and I'll see her in my rearview mirror, Natalie, standing by the side of the road, in that summer dress, waiting for the next truck. And I never, ever stopped, not for anyone. Small towns have long memories. That's something I learned real quick when I moved to Whittier, Alaska. I'm Austin, and I took a job as the town's only police officer in March 2021. Population, 272 people. And here's the weird part. Almost everyone lives in the same building. Baggage Towers, this massive old army barracks converted into apartments. The whole town under one roof. Why does everyone live in one building? I asked the mayor during my interview. Weather, he said simply. Winter here is brutal. Easier to have everything connected. School, post office, police station, clinic, all in the same building. Made sense, I guess. But there was something else. Something in the way people looked at each other. Like they were all keeping the same secret. Found out what that secret was on my first week. I was settling into my office, basically just a room with a desk and a filing cabinet, when this old woman knocked on my door. Her name was Judith, been living in Whittier for 40 years. You need to know something, she said, not even saying hello first. People go missing here. Missing? Every few years. Someone just vanishes, no trace. No body, nothing. I pulled out a notepad. How many people are we talking about? 11. In the last 30 years, that got my attention. 11 people from a town of 272. That's a huge percentage. Why hasn't this been investigated? She gave me this look. Sad, tired. It has been. State police came, FBI came once. They find nothing. No evidence of foul play. No signs of struggle. People just stop existing. Where do they disappear from? That's the thing. She leaned forward. Always from their apartments. Always during winter. And always on the 14th floor. The 14th floor. I felt a chill run down my spine. Show me, I said. The 14th floor of Baggage Towers was mostly abandoned. Half the apartments were empty. Windows dark. The hallway had this weird echo, and it was colder than the rest of the building. Nobody wants to live up here, Judith said. Not after what happened. She showed me apartment 1408. Empty now. This was where the last one disappeared. Woman named Paige, 2 years ago. She went to bed and in the morning she was gone. Door locked from the inside. Window sealed shut. It was January, -20 outside. But Paige, gone. I started digging through old police reports. Judith was right. 11 disappearances, all from the 14th floor, all during winter months. The pattern was so obvious I couldn't believe it hadn't made bigger news. But here's what was really strange. In every case, the person's belongings were left behind. Phones, wallets, even coats. Like they'd just stepped out for a second and never came back. I interviewed everyone who'd known the disappeared. Same story every time. They were acting strange before it happened. Said they heard things, voices, footsteps in their apartment when they were alone. One guy, Derek, told me about his sister who'd vanished in 2015. The last time I talked to her. She said someone was living in her walls, he said. I thought she was losing it, you know. Cabin fever or whatever, but she was dead serious. Said she could hear them moving around at night, whispering. What were they whispering? She wouldn't tell me. Said if she repeated it, it would make it real. 2 days later, she was gone. I should have left it alone. Just filed my reports, told the state police, let them handle it. But I couldn't. Something about those empty apartments on the 14th floor was pulling at me, so I did something stupid. I moved into apartment 1408. You're insane. Judith said when I told her. That's where Paige disappeared. Exactly. If something's happening up there, I need to experience it firsthand, she shook her head. You won't be the first officer to try this. Back in 2003, a state trooper stayed up there for a week, started acting paranoid, said the walls were breathing, checked himself into a psych facility on day 8. I'll be fine. I wasn't fine. The first night was quiet, eerily quiet. The apartment was small, 1 bedroom, kitchenette, bathroom. Nothing special, but the silence was oppressive. I could hear my own heartbeat. Around 2 a.m. I heard it for the first time, scratching coming from inside the walls. I got up, pressed my ear to the wall. There it was, scratch, 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 like fingernails on drywall. Moving slowly along the wall from the living room toward the bedroom, I grabbed my flashlight and followed the sound. It stopped at the bedroom closet. I opened the closet door, empty. Just bare walls and a few wire hangers, but the back wall felt wrong. I knocked on it, hollow. There was space behind it. The next day I got permission to open up the wall. What I found made my blood run cold. There was a gap, a space between the walls, maybe 2 feet wide, running the length of the building. And inside that space, scratched into the drywall, were messages. Hundreds of them. Help me. Let me out. I can't find the door. How long have I been here? And names. Carved into the wood studs. 11 names. The 11 people who'd disappeared, including Paige's name, scratched over and over and over. What the hell is this? I breathed. I called in the state police. They came, investigated, took samples. Their conclusion. The messages were old, years old, some decades old, all written by the missing people. But that's impossible, I said. If they were in the walls, where are the bodies? Where's the evidence? We don't know, the investigator said. But Officer Austin? I strongly recommend you don't stay in that apartment anymore. But I had to know. I had to understand. That night I stayed again. Around midnight I heard it. Not scratching this time. Footsteps inside my apartment. Slow, deliberate footsteps walking from the bedroom to the kitchen. I was sitting on the couch. There was nobody else there. But I could hear the footsteps, hear the floorboards creaking under weight that wasn't there. Who's there? I called out. The footsteps stopped. Then a voice. Quiet, distant, like it was coming from very far away. Help me. I'm lost. I recognized that voice. I'd heard it on old interview recordings. It was Paige. Paige? I said. Paige, where are you? I don't know. I can't find the door. I've been walking for so long. What door? Paige, what are you talking about? The door that leads back. I opened the wrong one. Now I can't find my way home. I stood up slowly. What door did you open? The one in the walls. It was calling to me, whispering my name. I thought if I went through I'd find something. But there's nothing here, just darkness. Just hallways that don't end. My hands were shaking. How do I help you? You don't. You run. It knows you're here now. It knows you found the messages. It's going to call you too. What is it? But her voice was fading. Don't open the door, Austin. No matter what it promises. Don't. Silence. I stood there in my apartment breathing hard, and then I heard it. A knock, 3 slow knocks on my bedroom closet door from the inside. Austin, a voice called. My own voice. Open the door. I need to show you something. I ran, grabbed my keys and my phone, and I ran. Down 14 flights of stairs, out into the freezing night. Didn't stop until I was in my car. I drove to Judith's apartment. Pounded on her door at 1 a.m. I heard them, I said when she answered. They disappeared. They're still here, trapped somewhere. She didn't look surprised, just said, I know. We all know. Why didn't anyone tell me? Would you have believed us? She let me in, made me coffee. Every few years it takes someone. We don't know why. We don't know how to stop it. We just live with it. That's insane. We need to evacuate the 14th floor, tear down those walls. They tried that. In 1997, demolished 3 apartments, opened up all the walls, found nothing. But the disappearances didn't stop. She sipped her coffee. Whatever it is, it's not in the walls. The walls are just how it reaches us. I left Whittier the next week, quit my job, moved back to Washington State. Some people called me a coward. Maybe I am, but here's what keeps me up at night. Before I left, I checked the building records. Baggage Towers was built in 1956 as a military barracks. But before that, The land was used by the army for experimental housing projects during World War II. They were testing something, some kind of prototype living structure. The records are classified, but I managed to get a few fragments. There was an accident, a collapse. 12 soldiers went missing in the structure. They searched for days but never found the bodies. 12 soldiers, 11 civilians disappeared since. I think something opened during that accident, some kind of space between spaces. And it's still hungry. Last week, Judith called me. First time we'd spoken since I left. There's been another one, she said. Who? New guy. Moved into 1408 last month. Said he wanted to investigate the disappearances. My blood went cold. Did he? He's gone. Vanished 3 days ago. But Austin? Her voice cracked. We found something in his apartment. A message on his bathroom mirror, written in the condensation. What did it say? It said Austin was right. There's a door. And it's beautiful. I'm going through. I hung up. Blocked her number. I don't want to know anymore. Because late at night when my apartment is quiet, I hear it sometimes scratching in my walls, and a voice that sounds like mine, whispering, "You should have stayed, Austin. You should have opened the door. I'm moving again next week. I don't think distance matters, but I have to try." I've been a park ranger for 8 years, worked in Yellowstone, Yosemite, and the Smokies. But nothing prepared me for Tongass National Forest in southeast Alaska. I am Cameron, and what I'm about to tell you is the reason I'll never work in a forest again. Tongass is the largest national forest in the United States. 17 million acres of temperate rainforest. Dense, wet, ancient. Trees so thick you can't see 10 feet in any direction. And it's quiet in a way that's hard to describe. Not peaceful quiet. Wrong quiet. I started in May 2019. My supervisor was this weathered guy named Randall who'd been working Tongass for 23 years. "You ever worked rainforest before?" he asked on my first day. "No, sir. Mostly mountains and deserts." He nodded slowly. "Rainforest is different. Everything's alive here. Everything's watching," I laughed. "Watching?" He didn't laugh back. "You'll see what I mean. Just remember, stay on the trails. Don't go deep woods alone. And if you see something that doesn't make sense..." "You didn't see it, sir. You didn't see it, Cameron. You write it off as a trick of the light, your mind playing games, whatever. But you don't acknowledge it. You definitely don't follow it." That was my first warning sign. The job was mostly routine stuff. Trail maintenance, checking on campers, wildlife monitoring. Beautiful work, honestly. The forest was incredible. Massive Sitka spruces, moss covering everything. Streams running clear and cold. But Randall was right. There was something off about the quiet. It started on week 3. I was doing a solo patrol on the southern trails, about 8 miles from the ranger station. It was overcast, misty, normal for Tongass. I was checking trail markers when I felt it. Someone watching me, you know that feeling? When the hairs on your neck stand up, and you just know someone's eyes are on you. I turned around, nothing, just trees and mist. "Hello?" I called out. My voice sounded flat, absorbed by the dense vegetation. No response. But the feeling didn't go away. I continued my patrol, but I kept looking over my shoulder. And every time I turned, I swear I saw movement in my peripheral vision. Something darting behind a tree. Something tall. When I got back to the station, I mentioned it to Randall. "Probably just a bear," he said, not looking up from his paperwork. Didn't look like a bear. It was upright, human-shaped, but wrong. Now he looked up. "Where were you?" "South Trail. Mile marker 8. His face went pale. "Stay away from there." "Why?" "What's out there?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "How much do you know about the Tlingit people?" "The indigenous people?" "Not much. They've lived in these forests for 10,000 years, and they have stories. Stories about things in the deep woods. Kushtaka, they call them. Shapeshifters. They look almost human, but not quite. And they lead people into the forest, deep into places where you can't find your way back." I stared at him. "You're telling me there's some kind of cryptid out there?" "I'm telling you that in 23 years, I've learned not to question what I don't understand. 12 hikers have gone missing in this forest since I started. 12, and we never find them. Not even bodies. They just vanish. People get lost, or not like this." He pulled out a file. "Look at these cases. Every single one, they were experienced hikers. They had GPS, emergency beacons, supplies, and all of them in their final radio contacts said the same thing." "What?" that they saw someone they knew, a friend, a family member, calling to them from deeper in the forest, and they followed. My mouth went dry. But there was nobody else out there. Exactly. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that feeling of being watched, that shape darting between trees. The next week I tried to avoid the south trails, but I got a call on my radio. A hiker was overdue, last known position was near mile marker 8. I had to go. I went at dawn figuring daylight would make it less creepy. Wrong. The mist was thicker than ever. I could barely see 20 feet ahead. I followed the trail, calling out for the missing hiker. A guy named Blake, mid-30s, experienced backpacker. I found his campsite around noon. Tent still set up, sleeping bag inside, backpack propped against a tree, but no Blake. And here's what made my skin crawl. His boots were still there, neatly placed outside the tent, like he'd stepped out of them and walked away in his socks. Who does that? Who walks into an Alaskan rainforest in just socks? I radioed it in, started a grid search. But as I was searching, I heard it. Cameron. My name. Clear as day. Coming from deeper in the forest off the trail. Cameron, over here. I need help. It sounded like my brother. Exactly like Landon, my younger brother who lived in Texas, but Landon wasn't here. He was 1,500 miles away. Cameron, please. I'm hurt. Every instinct screamed at me not to follow that voice, but it sounded so real, so much like Landon. I took 3 steps off the trail, then I remembered what Randall said. You don't acknowledge it. I stopped, closed my eyes. You're not real, I said out loud. Silence. Then the voice came again, but different now. Angry. Cameron, come here now. It didn't sound like Landon anymore. It sounded wrong. Multiple voices layered over each other. I backed away, got back on the trail and ran. Ran back to Blake's campsite, grabbed my radio, called for immediate backup. As I waited, I heard it. Footsteps circling the campsite. Heavy, deliberate footsteps. But I couldn't see anything, just mist and trees. Then I saw it standing at the edge of the clearing, about 30 feet away. It looked like a person, tall, wearing what looked like hiking clothes. But something was wrong with the proportions. Arms too long, head tilted at an angle that wasn't quite natural, and it was staring at me. I stared back, frozen. We locked eyes, except it didn't really have eyes. Just dark hollows where eyes should be. It smiled. A smile too wide for any human face. Then it spoke, and it used Blake's voice. Why didn't you come when I called? My hand went to my bear spray. Where's Blake? What did you do to him? Blake followed me. He thought I was his daughter, kept calling me Emma, asking why I was so far from home. The thing laughed, and it sounded like wind through a crack. He followed me all the way to the deep places. Where the trees remember. Where we wait. We? There are dozens of us here. Hundreds, maybe. We've been here longer than your kind. We were here when the ice covered everything. We'll be here when you're gone. The thing took a step closer. I raised the bear spray. That won't work on me, it said. Nothing you have will work. Then why are you still standing there? It tilted its head. Because I can't take you by force. You have to come willingly. You have to follow. I'm not going anywhere with you. You will eventually. They all do. We're patient. We can wait years if necessary. Decades. We'll be in your peripheral vision. In the corner of your eye. You'll hear our voices at night. We'll wear the faces of everyone you love. It smiled again. Eventually, you'll follow. That's when I heard the helicopter. Backup arriving. The thing looked up at the sky, and for just a second I saw what it really was. Not human at all. Something ancient. Something that had learned to approximate human shape but couldn't quite get it right. It looked back at me. I'll see you again, Cameron. In the mist. In the trees. In your dreams. Then it turned and walked into the forest. Except it didn't walk normally. It moved wrong. Joints bending in directions they shouldn't. And within 3 steps it was gone. Just melted into the mist. We never found Blake. Search and rescue combed that area for 2 weeks, nothing. It was like he'd never existed. I quit a month later. Told them it was for personal reasons. Randall knew the real reason. On my last day, he said, "You saw one, didn't you?" "Yeah." "And you didn't follow?" "No." He nodded, something like respect in his eyes. "You're lucky. Most people aren't that strong. How do you do it? How do you keep working here, knowing what's out there?" "I stay on the trails. I don't work after dark, and I never ever go to the deep places." He paused. And I try not to think about the fact that there are places in this forest where nobody has ever been. Places so deep and dark that anything could be living there. I moved to Arizona. Desert, no forests, no mist, no trees. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. 2 months after I left, I was at a grocery store in Phoenix. A hot day, bright sun, crowded parking lot. I was loading groceries into my car when I saw someone across the parking lot. They were staring at me. Tall person in a hoodie, face in shadow. They waved slowly, deliberately, then they smiled. That too wide smile, and I knew. It had followed me. I don't know what they are. I don't know what they want. But I know this. They're not just in the forests of Alaska. They're everywhere. They've always been everywhere. They're just better at hiding in some places than others. And if you ever hear someone you know calling to you from a place they shouldn't be, if you see a familiar face in an unfamiliar location, don't follow, don't acknowledge it. And for God's sake, don't look too closely, because once they know you can see them, they'll never leave you alone. I see them everywhere now. In crowds. In reflections. Standing at the end of long hallways, always watching, always waiting, always smiling. I come from 4 generations of fishermen. My grandfather fished these waters. My father fished these waters. And for 15 years, so did I, past tense. Because after what happened last October, I sold my boat and got a job on land. I'm Dylan, and I'm going to tell you why I'll never set foot on the Bering Sea again. I ran a commercial fishing boat out of Dutch Harbor, crab fishing, mostly king crab. If you've ever watched those shows about Alaskan crab fishing, you know it's dangerous work. People die out here. Boats go down in storms. Men get swept overboard. Hypothermia, exhaustion, equipment failures. It's all real, but there are worse things than storms. My crew was small, just 4 of us. Me, my first mate Garrett, and 2 deckhands, Quinn and Hayden. We'd been working together for 3 seasons. Good guys. Experienced. The kind of crew you trust with your life, because out there you have to. October 2022. We were about 60 miles offshore, working the grounds near the Pribilof Islands. It had been a decent season. Our holds were half full and we had another week before we needed to head back. The weather forecast was clear. Calm seas, good conditions. That should have been our first warning. Nothing's ever that perfect on the Bering Sea. We were hauling in pots around 11 p.m. We work night and day out there, no real schedule. Just whenever the pots are ready. Quinn and Hayden were on deck. Garrett was at the controls, and I was monitoring everything from the wheelhouse. The pot came up. 700 pounds of steel cage covered in sea growth and dripping with icy water. Normal, except Quinn radioed up to me and his voice was strange. "Dylan, you better come look at this." "What is it?" "Good catch? Just come look." I went down to the deck. The pot was open, and yeah, there were crabs in it. But there was something else, a hand, a human hand, severed at the wrist, tangled in the mesh. We all just stared at it for a second. The hand was pale, wrinkled from the water, but not decomposed. Fresh, maybe a day old at most. "What the hell?" Hayden breathed. Garrett looked at me. "What do we do?" "We radio the Coast Guard and we mark these coordinates." I pulled out my phone, took pictures. "This is a crime scene now," we called it in. Coast Guard said they'd send a cutter, but it would take them 8 hours to reach us. They told us to stay put, not to move the hand and to keep fishing if we felt safe. Safe. Nothing felt safe anymore. But we couldn't just sit there for 8 hours doing nothing, so we kept working. Moved to a new spot about a mile away, dropped more pots. That's when things got weird. The next pot we pulled up, another hand. Left hand this time. Same pale, waterlogged appearance, fresh. "Okay, this is seriously messed up," Quinn said. His face was white. We radioed the Coast Guard again. They sounded concerned but told us the same thing. "Stay put, don't move anything, cutters on the way." We pulled up 3 more pots, 3 more body parts. A foot, a forearm, part of a torso. "We need to leave," Hayden said. "Right now. We need to get the hell out of here." Coast Guard said to stay. I don't care what they said. "We're pulling up pieces of a body. What if whoever did this is still out here?" He had a point. But the nearest boat on our radar was 15 miles away. We were alone out here. Garrett was checking the parts. "Dylan, look at this. These cuts, they're not clean. Not like a blade or a saw. They're torn." I looked closer. He was right. The edges were ragged, like something had ripped the body apart with sheer force. What could do that? Quinn asked. None of us had an answer. We decided to keep working but stay alert. Keep the deck lights on full blast. Keep the radio open. But I had this growing feeling of dread in my gut. The next pot came up. Inside was a crab, just one. Biggest king crab I'd ever seen. Had to be at least 30 pounds, twice the size of a normal one. Its shell was darker than usual, almost black, and it was eating something, another piece of human flesh. Jesus Christ, Garrett said. The crab looked up at us. I know that sounds crazy. Crabs don't look at anything. But I swear this thing tilted its body toward us like it was aware. Like it was studying us. Quinn grabbed a gaff to pull the pot closer and the crab moved. Fast, faster than any crab should move. It scuttled to the edge of the pot and just stopped, staring at us with those black alien eyes. Throw it back, I said. It's huge, Dylan. Worth at least. I said throw it back. Hayden used the gaff to flip the crab out of the pot. It hit the water and disappeared immediately into the black depths. We all stood there, breathing hard, staring at the dark water. I've never seen a crab move like that, Garrett said quietly. Neither had I. We pulled up 2 more pots, more body parts. A head this time, but the face was gone, torn off. And more of those massive black crabs, all of them feeding. We're leaving, I said. Screw the Coast Guard, we're getting out of here. But as we started pulling in the remaining pots to secure them, something hit the boat, hard. The whole vessel lurched to the side. Alarms started blaring. We were taking on water. Hull breach, Garrett shouted. Starboard side, below the waterline. What did we hit? Quinn was already running to check the damage. There's nothing out here to hit, I yelled back. We're in open water. Something hit us again. And again. Like something was ramming the boat from underneath. I looked over the side, shining a spotlight down into the water, and I saw them. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. Those massive black crabs swarming around our hull, crawling over each other, forming this writhing mass. And they were attacking the boat, using their claws to tear at the hull plating. They're trying to sink us, Garrett said, his voice barely a whisper. We radioed a mayday. Coast Guard responded immediately, said they were sending a helicopter. But it would take 45 minutes. We didn't have 45 minutes. The crabs were relentless. We could hear them now, clicking, scraping, tearing. The sounds of thousands of claws working at the metal. Pumps were running full blast, but we were still taking on water. We need to do something. Hayden shouted. Like what? That's when Quinn had an idea. The deck lights. What if we turn them off? Crabs are attracted to light, right? It was crazy, but we were desperate. I killed all the deck lights. For about 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then the attacks stopped. The clicking, scraping sounds faded. I looked over the side with a flashlight. The crabs were still there, but they weren't attacking anymore. Just floating, watching. Keep the lights off, I said. And nobody move. We stood there in the dark, listening to the water slosh against the hull, the pumps working overtime. 40 minutes. We just had to last 40 minutes until the helicopter arrived. But then Hayden's radio crackled. Except it wasn't coming from any of our radios. It was coming from outside. From the water. Help me. A voice. Weak. Human. Coming from the dark water next to the boat. Someone's out there. Hayden moved toward the rail. Wait, I started, but he was already leaning over with a flashlight. The light hit the water and I saw it. A person, floating face down, body intact. Wearing a survival suit. There's a survivor. Hayden reached down with the gaff, trying to hook the person and pull them closer. Don't, I shouted, but it was too late. The moment Hayden touched the body with the gaff, it rolled over. It wasn't a person. It was made of crabs. Hundreds of them, clustered together in the shape of a human body. Wearing a survival suit that must have belonged to whoever they'd eaten. They'd formed themselves into a grotesque puppet, and as we watched, they started climbing the gaff. Hayden screamed and let go, but the crabs were already pouring over the rail. Onto our deck, moving as one like they had a single mind. We ran for the wheelhouse, sealed the door. Through the window we could see them. Thousands of those black crabs covering the entire deck. And they were trying to get in, stacking on top of each other, reaching for the door handle. What are they? Quinn was crying now. I didn't have an answer. This wasn't normal. This wasn't natural. These things were coordinated, intelligent. They were hunting us. The helicopter found us 25 minutes later. Coast Guard lowered a rescue swimmer, but even he freaked out when he saw the deck. They had to use the helicopter's searchlight to sweep the crabs away just to get us out. All 4 of us made it out alive. The boat didn't. They watched it sink as they flew us back to Dutch Harbor. The crabs covered it completely until it went under. Coast Guard sent divers down a week later. Found the boat on the bottom, completely torn apart, like something had systematically dismantled it. No sign of the crabs. And here's the thing nobody wants to talk about. They found 6 other boats in that same area, all sunk within the last month, all torn apart the same way. And in every wreck they found survival suits, empty suits. The official report said equipment failure, bad weather, accidents. But I know what I saw. Those things are still down there, in the deep cold waters of the Bering Sea, waiting, hunting. And they're smart enough to use our own survival gear as bait. I told you I sold my boat. What I didn't mention is that I don't eat seafood anymore either. Can't, because I keep thinking about those crabs, about how they moved, how they thought. And I keep thinking about all those crab legs in restaurants, all those king crabs shipped down from Alaska. What if some of them are the wrong kind? What if they're watching, learning, waiting for the right moment? I know it sounds paranoid, but 3 months ago Garrett called me, said he couldn't sleep, said he kept having nightmares about clicking sounds. Last week they found him dead in his apartment. Heart attack, they said. But I talked to the cop who found him. He said Garrett's apartment was on the 3rd floor and there were wet tracks leading from his body to the window. Small tracks, lots of them, like something had crawled in and crawled back out. I've started sleeping with my bedroom door locked, and I check under my bed every night because sometimes, late at night when everything's quiet, I hear it. Click, click, click. The sound of something with too many legs, moving in the dark, getting closer. Urban exploration. That's what we called it. Exploring abandoned places, taking photos, documenting forgotten history. It was a hobby, a thrill. Something to do on weekends. I'm Jordan. And what happened in that mine outside of Juneau is why I'll never step foot in another abandoned building again. It started as a road trip. Summer 2021. Me and 3 friends, Amber, Tyler, and Madison. We were all in our mid-20s, into photography and adventure. We'd explored old hospitals, factories, asylums all over the Pacific Northwest. But Alaska? That was the big one. The ultimate destination for urban explorers. So many abandoned places. Gold rush towns, old military bases, Soviet-era ruins. And almost nobody bothering us because everything's so remote. We found the mine on an old mining forum, the Treadwell Mine Complex near Juneau. Closed in 1922 after a massive cave-in flooded the tunnels. Hundreds of miles of passages, most of them underwater now. But some sections were still accessible. Nobody goes there anymore, Tyler said, reading from his phone. Too dangerous. The tunnels are unstable. Perfect, Amber grinned. No security, no other people. We'll have the whole place to ourselves. Red flag number 1. But we were young and stupid. We drove out there on a Tuesday morning. The mine entrance was about 2 miles off the main road, hidden in thick forest. The main buildings were collapsed, just piles of rotting timber. But the mine entrance was still there, a gaping black hole in the side of the mountain, wooden beams framing it like teeth. That's ominous as hell, Madison said. It's perfect, Tyler countered. Already setting up his camera, we geared up. Flashlights, backup batteries, rope, first aid kit. We weren't completely reckless. We knew the risks. We had a plan. Explore for 2 hours, stay together, turn back at the first sign of trouble. The tunnel entrance was bigger than I expected. Wide enough to drive a truck through. Rails still ran along the floor, disappearing into the darkness. The air smelled wrong. Musty, metallic, and something else. Something organic and rotten. Anyone else smell that? I asked. Old wood, Amber said. Everything's decaying. Maybe. But it smelled like more than that. We went in. The first 100 yards were easy. The tunnel was stable, plenty of room. Our flashlights cut through the darkness, illuminating old equipment, rusted carts, collapsed support beams. Tyler was taking photos constantly. This is incredible, he kept saying. These shots are going to be amazing. The tunnel branched. We took the right passage. Then another branch. We took the left. We were marking our path with chalk arrows on the walls. Standard procedure. But the tunnels kept branching over and over. How big is this place? Madison asked. I checked my map. The Treadwell complex was massive. At its peak, they had over 300 miles of tunnels down here. And they're all connected, most of them. It's basically a maze. We should have turned back right then. About 40 minutes in, we found the first room. A large chamber, maybe 30 feet across. In the center was a pile of something. We got closer with our lights. Bones, animal bones looked like. Deer, maybe. Lots of them. Picked completely clean and arranged in a circle. What the hell, Amber whispered. Maybe it's old, Tyler suggested. From when the mine was active. These bones are white, I said. They're fresh. Within the last year, maybe less. What would drag a deer all the way down here? Madison's voice was shaking. Nothing good, I said. We should go back. Come on, Tyler argued. We've barely seen anything. Let's go just a little further. Red flag number 2. But Amber agreed with him, and Madison didn't want to walk back alone. So we kept going. The tunnels got narrower. Lower ceilings. We had to duck in places. And the smell was getting stronger. That rotten organic stench. Then we heard it, a sound, deep in the tunnels ahead of us, like something heavy dragging across stone. We all froze. Please tell me you guys heard that. Madison said. We all nodded. The sound came again. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Rhythmic, deliberate, and it was getting closer. We're leaving, I said. Right now. We turned around and started back the way we came. Fast walking, almost jogging. Our lights bouncing off the walls, but something was wrong. We reached a branch in the tunnel. I looked at the wall. No chalk arrow. Did we come from the left or right? Amber asked. Left, Tyler said. I thought it was right, Madison said. I shined my light on both passages. Neither had our chalk mark. That's impossible, I said. We marked every turn. We checked both passages, no marks. It was like someone had erased them, or we were in the wrong tunnel entirely. Okay, don't panic, Tyler said, though he sounded panicked himself. We just backtrack, find the marks and follow them out. We tried. For 20 minutes we tried. But nothing looked familiar. Every tunnel looked the same. Dark stone, rusted rails, the same smell, and we kept hearing that sound, that scraping. Sometimes ahead of us, sometimes behind, sometimes from side passages it was following us. We're lost, Madison said, and she started crying. We're lost in here and something's hunting us. We're not lost, I lied. We just need to stay calm, and that's when Tyler's flashlight died, just cut out dead. Batteries can't be gone already, he said, smacking it. I put in fresh ones, then Amber's light died. Then Madison's, one by one, all our flashlights were dying. Only mine was still working. Everyone stay close, I said. Hold on to each other. We formed a chain, me in front with the only working light, and we walked, trying to find any sign of the exit. But the tunnels just kept going, deeper, lower. The ceiling was barely 5 feet high now. We were hunched over, moving through cramped passages that definitely weren't on any map. That's when we found them. More bones. But not animals this time, human bones, lots of them, scattered across the tunnel floor. Skulls, ribs, femurs. Some of them looked old, brown with age, but others were newer. Still had scraps of clothing attached. Oh God, Amber was sobbing now. Oh God, we're going to die down here. Quiet, I hissed, because I heard something breathing, not ours. Something else, something big, coming from the darkness ahead. My flashlight beam showed the tunnel continuing forward about 20 feet, then nothing, just black. But in that blackness I saw something move, something pale, massive, and it had eyes. Lots of them, reflecting my light like an animal's eyes, but wrong. Too many. In the wrong places. Run, I whispered. What? Run, we ran. Back the way we came, stumbling over bones, not caring about the low ceiling, just running blind through the darkness, with only my dying flashlight to guide us. Behind us, I could hear it coming. That scraping sound, but faster now. And breathing. Heavy, wet breathing that echoed through the tunnels. We burst into a larger chamber. 3 exits. We took the middle one, just picked it at random and kept running. The tunnel sloped upward. That was good. Up meant toward the surface. We ran for what felt like hours. My lungs were burning. My flashlight was dimming, and behind us that thing was gaining. Then I saw it, light, real light. Daylight filtering in from somewhere ahead. There, I shouted. We sprinted toward it. The light got brighter. And then we were there. A collapsed section of tunnel with a hole in the ceiling, roots hanging down, sky visible above. It was maybe 15 feet straight up. Climb, I shouted. Tyler went first, using the roots as a ladder, then Amber, then Madison. I was last. I grabbed the first root and pulled myself up. My flashlight fell tumbling down into the darkness below, and in that moment, before it hit the ground, before it went out, I saw it clearly. The thing that had been chasing us, I can't even describe it properly. It was wrong in every way. Too big to fit in the tunnels we'd been running through. How had it followed us? Multiple limbs or tentacles or something else? That pale fungal skin. And those eyes, dozens of them covering its body. But the worst part? It had faces. Human faces. Embedded in its flesh. Eyes closed, mouths hanging open. Like it had absorbed everyone who'd ever gotten lost down there. Made them part of itself. My flashlight went out. I climbed faster than I've ever climbed in my life. Pulled myself up through that hole and into the blessed sunlight. We all collapsed in the forest, gasping, crying, covered in mud and God knows what else. We didn't speak. We just ran. Ran back to our car and drove straight to the police station in Juneau. They didn't believe us, of course. Said we'd gotten lost, panicked. Our minds played tricks in the dark. They sent a search and rescue team into the mine anyway. The team found our chalk marks. Found the chamber with the animal bones. But they didn't find any human remains. No sign of whatever chased us. One of the rescuers pulled me aside afterward. "Old guy, maybe 60. You kids aren't the first to go down there and come back with stories," he said quietly. "Been happening since the mine closed. People go in, come out scared out of their minds, talking about something living in the deep tunnels. Or they don't come out at all. So you believe us? I believe the mine's dangerous and people shouldn't go in there." He paused. "But I also believe there are old things in this world. Things that live in dark places. Things that were here long before we started digging." We all went home a week later. Didn't finish our Alaska trip. Didn't talk about what happened. Tyler deleted all his photos from that day. Said he couldn't look at them. Amber moved to California. Refuses to even talk about Alaska. Madison's in therapy. Last I heard, she's doing better. Mostly me. I sold all my exploration gear. Got a normal job. I don't even like going in basements anymore. But here's what keeps me up at night. Before we climbed out, while my flashlight was still working, I saw something else in that creature. A face I recognized. There was a famous case in 1998. A geology student named Connor went into the Treadwell mine alone. Never came back. They searched for weeks. Never found him. I saw Connor's face, embedded in that thing's flesh. His mouth open in a silent scream. His eyes closed. He'd been down there for 23 years and he wasn't dead. The face moved. The eyes shifted under the lids. Whatever that thing was, it didn't just kill. It absorbed, kept its victims alive in some horrific way, made them part of itself, growing, waiting, hunting. Last month I saw a news article. 3 teenagers went missing near the old Treadwell mine complex. They were urban explorers. Their car was found on the side of the road. Their phones were still in the car, along with flashlights and rope. Search and rescue went in. Found nothing, but they sealed the mine entrance this time, filled it with concrete, put up fences and warning signs. The article quoted the fire chief. "Too many people have gone missing in there. Whatever's in those tunnels, we're making sure nobody else goes looking for it." I wanted to feel relieved, but I keep thinking about those 300 miles of tunnels, all those branches and passages, all those other entrances that aren't on any map, and I keep thinking about what the old rescuer said, about old things. Things that were here first. That thing is still down there, in the dark, in the deep places where no light reaches, waiting, growing, and maybe, just maybe, finding new ways to the surface. I don't live in Alaska anymore. I live in Nevada now. Flat desert, no mines, no caves, no dark places, but sometimes I dream about those tunnels, those faces embedded in pale flesh. And I wake up screaming, because in the dreams I can feel it, the moment when the darkness takes you, when you become part of something old and hungry, when you stop being you and become just another face in the dark, still, alive, still aware but never free, stay out of abandoned places. Some things should stay buried.